Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Good evening from Bhubaneswar Dham. We have a really special program tonight. Let me just tell you a little something about it. We're going to watch a short video, older video of Srimad Gour Govinda Maharaj, which is called Guru is Always Present. And in this short excerpt from a lecture, Guru Maharaj is speaking about how even after the so-called disappearance of Guru, he's still present. And then after that, we'll hear a few words from His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaja, then from our Godbrother Purushottam Tirtha Prabhu. And then Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, he just contacted me. He may not be able to do it tonight. We're hoping he can. We'll find out. Then Radhanath Maharaja, and we may insert somewhere, somehow in here, Hari Parshad Prabhu, and our Godbrother Gokul Prabhu. Hari Parshad is a disciple of Radha Govinda Maharaj, a very learned person. At 7:20, we've got scheduled Radhanath Maharaj. And right after him, Amarendra Prabhu, who's a well-known, very Shastric speaker and beloved Guru Maharaj. And then following after him, we have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who is a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj, a very prominent devotee, thinker, and intellectual and preacher, who also has some very deep appreciations. And then at the end, we'll have Pushkaraksa Prabhu, our godbrother from France, speaking. And if devotees like, we'll have time for some reflections and questions and comments here and there. Nice to see Kavichandra Maharaj present here. Maharaj, we'll be calling on in just a few minutes. And I'm going to go ahead now and go to this video.
What happens when the physical presence of the Guru is absent? When the Guru is absent physically.
Yeah. But his instructions are there. His instructions, Bapu, Rupa, Bani, Rupa. You see? Guru means pure devotee, Vaishnava. You understand? Guru means a pure devotee, intimate, very, very intimate, associate of Lord Krishna. Is Guru, is Krishna Master. As when he is physically present, that is his presence is here. But when he, that means Apravat Lila, when he disappears, at that time, one should not think that Guru is not there. He's always there. Can you say Krishna is not there? Krishna is always there. Isn't it? Krishna is always there. If you have eye, you can see Krishna. Bhakti Vilojanino Santa Sadaiva Hridayasmira Prayati. Just Shyam Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusam Pramamvajan. I have already spoken. Even that, I have Bhakti Chakshu. I have devotion. And you have developed Krishna Prem. Then you will see Krishna everywhere. Jahan jahan vyakta kore tahan Krishna is there. You know how could Radhanath Maharaj see Krishna in the pillar, whereas his father couldn't? Tasyam na prasyami, swatame na prasyati. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Tasyam na prasyami, swatame na prasyati. You see, he always says me, I always see him. Listen. So, similar, spiritual master is always there. You understand? Don't think that he is physically present. He is not there. He is there. He is always there. If you develop love for spiritual master, if you develop that eye, you can see him. You can talk to him. And he is also present in this part. Bani, you understand? So instructions are there. Don't think so. That is away.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I thought that was a very appropriate video to play. Actually, I have a question for Purushottam Tirtha, for Pushkaraksa Prabhu. If you could make a comment. I think that was in Paris, France in 1985, maybe at the house of Hari Vilas Prabhu. Is that correct? Maybe you could comment in the chat session there. So now I'd like to turn to His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj and ask him if he'd like to say a few words about Gour Govinda Maharaj. For those of you who may not have the good fortune of knowing Kavichandra Maharaj, he's a very wonderful sadhu. He's very, very dedicated to parikrama and kirtan. He's famous for his simplicity and austerity. He's been the GBC for many years in Japan and also in Indonesia and Bali. And he had many years of exchanges with Gour Govinda Maharaj. And I'd like to welcome you wholeheartedly, Maharaj, and thank you so much for being here tonight, our night. Please, if you could
Thank you.
say something, I'd be very grateful.
Om Gana Timiranda Syaganangana Shalakaya Chaksamilitanyena Tasmai Shri Guru. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschachade Satam. Vanchkalpatrubhyas cha kripa sindhubhyam cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. Gour Govinda Swami ki jai. So I missed out on, very intimate association, but I had a type of association with him that very few people had because we both got on the GBC the same year in '87. And I remember when we were discussing his nomination, the only comment, because he wasn't known to very many, the comment was it might be very, very difficult for him to be in our association because we're so gross, And everybody laughed, and then he came on the GBC. And I was impressed. He was a very, cooperative. He attended all the meetings and participated a lot. And we were on a committee that was the first education committee. And of course, we were dealing then mostly with child abuse and discipline in the schools. And he was extremely helpful because having had been a school teacher, he knew that, because we were being told, India, you have to beat them to a pulp and this and that. He told us that's completely not the standard, at least the law. Very helpful. So, but then later, I had to deal with local leaders who were averse to him coming to where I was a GBC, and let him, make sure he could come anyway. I won't mention the names, but so in Bali, we had a big problem, brought two different groups and just at each other's throats. And the one group was kind of headless, but they found him in India and they invited him to come. And there was objection because he'd been in Australia, and a few devotees were quite disturbed by his preaching. So I asked Prabhu Vishnu Swami, he said, well, Maharaj is so shastric, he's so strong, he just kind of shocked a lot of devotees. But otherwise, it's really good what he did. So I insisted that he could come. And he was very helpful because this group was, kind of ostracized by the local leader. And he told them, you have to work with the GBC, who happened to be me. And then they became grounded. He initiated a bunch of them and who had Guru fall down. And they got connected. They got very strong faith. And within a short time, by his preaching and moving around, the two groups became friends. So I have great gratitude for that. It's not, recently that I've just listened to more and more of his classes, and it's just a phenomenal thing. But everybody, all of you know that very much, and how much he was so dedicated to Prabhupada. I remember when he took sannyas and nobody knew him. It was in Vrindavan, and it was Tripurari and him. And I saw him and I asked somebody, who is that? All I knew, he's 55 years old, and that was like, my God, 55 years old. It's like impossible, but, and we didn't see him very much because he was back in Bhubaneswar, and his disciples in Bali are done a lot of spectacular things that really inspired, especially Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, to save the day against, crazy people. So we have a great debt, everybody, the whole movement does, for his, really pure preaching and love, preaching on the highest standard of surrender and give it all up, and, but in a very humorous, way. I saw him pin down different devotees. Are you chanting your rounds, and but he always picked on a person who, they were having trouble, and he jarred them back into falling in line. So he, he was just such a person. Otherwise I didn't personally, only working on the GBC, with him. Even when he came to Bali, we were never there at the same time, but he was, he was ISKCON all the way, following Prabhupada's, because some of his so-called followers would say blah, blah, blah. But my experience was, just like he dedicated himself so much in translating Srila Prabhupada's books, and, incredible determination to never eat until he finished a certain number of pages or whatever words. And, sometimes that was quite late in the day. So, it's, really amazing, great inspiration for so many devotees, traveling a lot. And of course, that temple has become a spectacular thing. But from Chaitanya Chandra told me he used to ride Maharaj on the back of the bicycle to go out preaching. And from the hut or whatever they were living in, or because it was a field far away from everything. Prabhupada told him, don't worry, it'll become the center of the city, which it has. And he had we've seen, he had a very special relationship with Prabhupada, completely friendly and casual. Prabhupada just liked to stay with him in that hut and just live there without any formalities, and, and just have a friend and eat together and whatever they did. So in that way also, it was a special person. I can't like really imagine. But at the same time, he never was casual about his relationship with Prabhupada. He was totally fixed and determined to especially get all the books published, which he did, and hoping that we can keep telling others to follow that example. We have so many languages to go. So I don't know, time. Not sure what time we started. I didn't check, but Madhava?
I'm here, Maharaj. You can continue some more if you like, another 5 minutes or something, or if you're more comfortable to stop now, that's also okay, as you like.
Yeah, I just, I kind of got my message out, but I kind of wanted to hang around. Krishna arranged it. I thought I'd had something else afterward, but and hear what others have to say, because many had much more association with him.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for taking time. I really
Want to throw
appreciate
that
it.
in, because very few of us had that association as GBC God Brothers. So that was something, like quite unique as far as association goes. And I have to say, just see how much Madhavananda Prabhu is inspired and strictly following, the order and really doing an amazing, first class job and, with the books and the magazines and everything like Bhakti. So that's just another proof of his, Shakti. All right, so I want to thank everybody for giving me this chance. We'll hear others who had much more time with him and much more personal kinds of experiences. Okay, Dhanyavad, Hare Krishna, Gauranga.
Thank you very much, Kavichandra Maharaj. I really appreciate you spending the time. It's nice to hear about how Guru Maharaj had taken sannyas with Tripurari Maharaj. I, I, I heard that Prabhupada called him up into his room and gave it to him privately. There's very few people I've heard ever say anything about it. Tripurari Maharaj told me a few things. I also liked your comment about how it was at the very advanced age of 55. And everybody was so impressed with that. It's like ancient to be 55. Now it seems kind of cute.
Young devotees now that have been 40 years. But, Tripurari was begging for sannyas, and Prabhupada just told Gour Govinda Maharaj when he met him, I'll give you sannyas. Like right away, hardly had any, he just knew. So as far as I remember, there was a ceremony and they were both sitting outside. Now, Prabhupada probably called him in the room and told him. It was at the 75 Vrindavan Festival.
Another thing I appreciated that struck me in your comments, Maharaj, was your very frank words about what it was like to be a manager and dealing with him, because he was a very unconventional person in some ways. And I think also perhaps he didn't always relate to the Western style of management. And maybe there was some cultural difference between him and some of the early devotees. I don't know. But just how you spoke about that in a very frank, honest way, that's very, very helpful, very nice. Thank you. So I'd like now to ask one of my senior godbrothers, that's Purushottam Tirtha Prabhu, if he could say something. Purushottam now, he's a temple president in, in Belgium, in Antwerp, I think it is. And Purushottam, he can say more to us, correct me. Purushottam Prabhu joined it at many, many years ago. And he had a lot of association with Guru Maharaj. And we're very happy that you're here tonight, Purushottam Ji. It's really, really good. You look handsome, man. You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Prabhu, you had so much association yourself. I had little only.
Yeah, but we want quality, not quantity.
You're older to me in many ways. Many ways. Senior
So just another little word before we go further. Our schedule changed a little tonight. His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj just contacted me and very apologetically, he's having some health issues and he's really not up for saying anything tonight. So if Radhanath Maharaj is agreeable, we could go right on to Radhanath Maharaj after Purushottam Tirtha Prabhu. I think I saw Radhanath Maharaj here present a moment ago. And if not, then yeah, Radhanath Maharaj is here. Radhanath Maharaj, if you're here, if you'd like to go right after Purushottam Tirtha, that's fine. Otherwise, we also have a short video of another devotee making an offering. We could go with after Purushottam Tirtha Prabhu. Just let me know. So go ahead, Purushottam Prabhu. Thank you.
I told you already that I feel like a little mouse amongst many, many lion devotees. Then you told me you said even a mouse sometimes can roar. Okay, well, that gives me a little courage there. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Niti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharyani Vishesha Sunyavali Pashta Telisatayane. Where will I start? I mean, one thing is there that comes to my mind is that in the beginning, when I was hearing his classes, sometimes in the beginning we were leaving. I was leaving the class because I was thinking he's speaking Oriya for some time, so I will go. Then I heard a devotee saying that when I was leaving, that Guru Maharaj was saying, Purushottam, he is going in Maya because he thinks I'm speaking Oriya. From that time, I decided I will always sit in his class, Oriya or English, it doesn't matter, I will stay. And from that time on, I realized actually that it didn't make any difference. He could speak Oriya or English. I could understand both in a way. Without knowing one word of Oriya, I understood everything in a way that it was just as purifying and as powerful as the English. There was no difference anymore. He was so powerful in his speech that only our eyes, our heart, and our ears were present. And we were completely forgetting even that we had a body. And many times at the end of the class, we would find, I'm speaking we, because like a rice grain, if it's cooked, the whole pot is cooked. So many of us had the same experience, I mean to say. That's why I'm saying we many times, that we found ourselves at the end of the class at his feet. Even when sometimes we were far away from in the crowd, at the end of the class, we were many times finding ourselves at his feet. And we don't know even sometimes how we got there. This was the attraction of Srila Gurudev, like this. We were sometimes wondering at who is speaking to this body. Srila Guru Maharaj was of course never his body, although his body is completely spiritual. We were wondering that which wonderful, powerful personality is speaking through that body. We were amazed about this. Very, very, very amazed. And so after classes, many times we would pinch ourselves. Are we dreaming? Is this really happening to us? This amazing realizations, an amazing experience. Is it true? Is it possible for an ordinary person like myself to, and all the others were thinking the same? How is it possible that we can experience this? It was only because of his mercy. He would pray, Guru Maharaj would pray that this is Chaitanya Charitamrita class. He would pray, he would say that this is postgraduate class, but I only have here students which are in primary school. So what they will understand? They cannot understand anything. So Kakira Karura Kare, he would pray that, oh Mahaprabhu, please make this crows, make them into Karura so that they can understand. And in this way, by his mercy, we would somehow understand wonderful things, amazing things, amazing experiences like this. And Guru Maharaj's Prasad was very powerful as well, his Mahaprasad. Madhavananda knows, he interviewed one devotee in Antwerp here. I will not give the name of the devotee, but that devotee was actually in Antwerp and he was very sick with his hip. Something with his nerve, the nerve was actually between the joints and he was in a position that he could not even laugh without pain. He couldn't move his body, so much pain. And the doctors, the specialists have told him that we cannot operate, we can't do anything because we'll damage your nerves. You have to lay on your bed and hopefully within some time, maybe weeks or months, it will come good by itself. We cannot touch it. I felt that he must have made some offense to Srila Gurudev during his visit to Antwerp, which later I heard it was true, because later I heard that he went to Srila Gurudev and he asked so many questions, and Guru Maharaj was a bit annoyed by that, and Guru Maharaj told his servant after that this devotee does not know how to approach a sadhu. Anyway, I went to that devotee with some Mahaprasad, Guru Maharaj's rice grains. And I gave one rice grain, because he was in his bed, he couldn't move even. I gave one rice grain. I said, put this is special Mahaprasad, put it in your mouth. And he put it in his mouth, and somehow he started smiling a little bit, and I went away. And the next day, he was walking in the temple. And I asked him, what happened? You're walking. He said, your Gurudev is a very powerful person. I don't know, but as soon as I put the rice grain in my mouth, my muscle, everything came good. Everything came good. As soon as I put the rice grain in my mouth. This is the power of Srila Gurudev's Mahaprasad. Of course, I still have given to a non-disciple, which was maybe not good to do, but I mean, it was very, very wonderful. There was one devotee who had the ability, I cannot mention the name, he had the ability to read people in all kind of circumstances. I heard hundreds of stories about that. He was able to, when he meet one person for half a minute or for a few seconds, he would immediately understand what they were coming from, what was the personal situation. Many things he would just know. And he would shock them like that even. And he would, on Sankirtan, he would distribute books and he would tell them many things about themselves on first meeting immediately. And the persons were so struck and shocked actually. Then he would put the book in the hands, said, read everything in the book. You'll know everything. Give a donation. Like this. Anyway, and that devotee, when he took initiation from Srila Gurudev, at that very moment, after the initiation, the whole ability that he had for many years went away, completely gone, finished. The whole ability was not there anymore. This is the proof that of spiritual potency, how a spiritually potent person, a pure devotee, someone who's sent by Krishna, not different from Krishna himself, practically speaking, Sakshat Hari, how such a person can do wonderful things like this. And how such abilities are just darkness, ultimately, we can understand now. Huh? Right? Guru Maharaj was never a theoretical speaker. We were thinking after many years of reading the books, we were thinking that we know something about the scriptures and about philosophy. But by hearing Srila Gurudev, it became clear that up to that point, we did not know anything. We did not understand one little bit. Only after his sound vibration touched our ears and our heart, from that time on only, we start really understanding what we had read in theory for so many years. Is that enough? Is that okay like this? And Guru Maharaj was very humorous also. In Gadagiri, he had a chair, and that chair, his feet were not touching the ground. It was very uncomfortable. The chair was too high. Of course, Guru's feet are never touching the ground. That's another thing. I'm not meaning that. But me and Bhakta Swarup were thinking that this is very uncomfortable. Let us do something. And actually secretly, we cut a piece of the leg of the chair. So Gurudev sits in the chair next time, and we were sitting smiling at his feet, a bigger smile than usual. And he suddenly noticed that his feet touched the ground. And he looked, and he see us smiling, and he immediately understood what we did. And he also put a big laugh. He laughed big laughing. He liked it. He was very humorous also in this way. He could appreciate a lot of humor. So humorous also. Anyway, I think I'll stop speaking here. Oh, he came to Suriname actually, and like a mouse can become lion. We're talking about that, right? So actually, who was with him? Rasikananda was with him in Guyana. Rasikananda and Janeshwar Prabhu. Janeshwar was there also.
Janeshwar's not here tonight, not as far as I know.
They were in Guyana, and then it became clear that he could not come to Suriname because there was no flight available. It was not possible. So I told some of the people who are sponsoring our temple, the main family, and they said, no, he has to come to Suriname. We will take our private little plane and we send the pilot to Suriname, to Guyana, and he will come over to here. So, okay, very nice. So we arranged that. So he was flying, he came back with a little plane with Janeshwar Prabhu and Rasikananda. And then we were waiting at a small airport in the city, and we had the visa for him ready. It was posted to us by fax. But then they were forced to land at the big airport in Suriname. First means we have to go there 2.5 hours driving, and then Guru Maharaj 2.5 hour back driving, and the whole day would pass. So they were forced to land at the big airport. And Guru Maharaj was sitting in the big airport in the customs there area. And the pilot said, you have to come here because we cannot land in the city. We had to land here, they forced us to land here. So I became like a lion. The mouse became a lion by Guru Maharaj's mercy. So I phoned up the customs agents, police, and I said, you have to let the old sadhu step in the plane now, and he has to come here. We are waiting for him here. He said, no, we will not do that. I said, can I know your number on your uniform, please? The uniform number, if you know the number, you can do a lot of things, right? Anyway, he said, who are you to speak to a police officer like that? I said, my name is Purushottam Tirtha from the Hare Krishna temple, and I'm a disciple of that great sadhu sitting there. And you have to let him go now. He slammed the phone down actually on me. Then I phoned the head of the immigration, who I happen to know very well, the lady. She's a Christian lady, but I told her that if you are phoning the airport and you make sure that they let him go and come here, then you get unlimited blessings from Krishna if you do so.
Purushottam Prabhu, we lost you. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I have 1 minute, 2 minutes to finish.
Sure.
Okay, so what happened is that you heard the last part, that the head of immigration?
Yes.
So she actually phoned to the police there, and after 15 or 10 minutes, we heard that the pilot said over the board radio at the small airport, we are in the air again, and we will be landing in 8 minutes. So they landed in 8 minutes, then we got Guru Maharaj there. Anyway, Hare Krishna. And he blessed Suriname with his holy feet, and it was very wonderful. We had a wonderful time with him there, and amazing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Purushottam Prabhu. I just listening to you, we can capture a little bit of the joy and happiness that you experienced in association with Guru Maharaj, and thank you for sharing that with all of us. Your story reminded me of a personal story I can share very quickly. In 1994, I had the good opportunity to travel with Guru Maharaj for a month or so in Europe as his personal servant. And when we flew back into India, we landed in Delhi and we were going through immigration. And although I'd been going all over with Guru Maharaj in all these different countries in Europe with no problem with my passport, somehow this time when they took my passport, they kept it for a long time. And then they came back to me and they said, this is not really you. There's something wrong with this passport. And I was, what do you mean? Of course it's me. And I'm trying to talk to them. And Guru Maharaj is sitting very patiently, and it's taking a long time. Finally, Guru Maharaj went over to them and he told them, he said, I'm an old man. Why will you punish me? If you want to keep him, you can have him. But let me go on my own. Guru Maharaj said like that. And I have to say, honestly, it broke my heart for just a moment. Oh my God, Guru Maharaj is just going to leave me here. All these crazy police people. But then somehow I got a little intelligence, and I just repeated what he said. I went over to some of the other authorities and I said, look, he's an old man. If you have a problem with me, then keep me here, but you should let him go. Why are you troubling him? Guru Maharaj said, I can't walk. You should have someone help me. So I just repeated what Guru Maharaj said. And then they were taken aback for a moment and they just let me go because of Guru Maharaj's potency of his
Was
words.
standing all along.
So thank you very much, Purushottam. But we miss your association. I'm sitting here in the guest house in the Bhubaneswar temple. Actually, this is a room that you used to stay in. And Rasikananda bought you that famous bell with a torch in it.
I have to tell you one thing more. I have one more thing to say. Guru Maharaj's classes were so powerful, that the effects, like one time we were in his Chaitanya Charitamrita class, and he was completely getting into ecstatic mood, and we were hearing with our ears, heart, and eyes, especially with ears and heart. We had no body anymore. We were only hearing. Our whole body turned into ear, actually. Amazing, amazing. And then what happened is then, because I was serving my Gornitai in my room, and then I would quickly go to the class, and it was very intense. And I came back right after class, I came back in my room, and amazing. I saw my Gornitai standing on the table. And the darshan I got from my Gornitai after hearing the class of Gurudev was such a darshan. I was thinking they can jump off the table, they'll start dancing. They'll start dancing. And I just offered my obeisance flat on the ground. I was there for about 5 or 10 minutes and crying on the floor, shedding tears and offering obeisance and prayers to Gornitai and to Gurudev. It was such an amazing, just because of because I was carrying the Shakti of that class with me to the room, and I got that darshan. Amazing. Another time also, Guru Maharaj, we fell at his feet. I told many times the story. You might fall asleep when I hear the story. I don't know. But Guru Maharaj was speaking, and I was saying, Guru Maharaj, when we were going down the staircase, Guru Maharaj, the mercy of Mahaprabhu, he was touching devotees and they would go, Prema, Krishna Prema, is it still available, that mercy? And I know the answer already, more or less. He said, yes, it is available, but you are very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. all of us, he said. Anyway, maybe he meant only me, maybe. Then we were walking and we came to his hut, right? And then I asked him that, so Gurudev, how can we become fortunate then? Then I was standing actually right in front of him. And he looked me right in the eyes. And he said, pointing actually to Prabhupada's kutir, he said, by dashing your head here on the floor every day. And I could not contain myself. I just fell on the floor and put my head forcibly at his feet, and stayed like that with my head on his feet. And he was just laughing, and he said, cello, cello, cello. And he went into his hut. But when I stand up, kind of a miracle, like I was completely, I don't know what happened to me, but everything was completely different. Like the whole day I was walking like in a dream. And the only thing I could think was the holy Hare Krishna mantra. I couldn't think anything else. Hare Krishna mantra all the time was going on my brain. I couldn't, nothing could enter anything else. And I was seeing everywhere that everything is for Krishna's enjoyment. Everything, wherever I looked, whatever I thought, whatever I saw, a complete like a transformation. And even in the evening time, I was laying in my bed and you're thinking many things normally, but the only thing that's going on in my mind was Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. I couldn't think anything else. It was amazing. But then also, because of many offenses, we make many offenses. It's a very subtle world, this Vaishnava world. You make offense. It went away again. This whole feeling went away after some time. But it was really quite an amazing experience, actually, I must say. So Gurudev was that with all of us. All of us had such wonderful, amazing experiences. All of us. I can say we, because all of us. Okay, now I stop. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Purushottam. Purushottam would just continue for days and days and weeks. He probably never ever stopped the rest of his life. He had so many.
It's going in my mind, but no. Let me try to follow his instructions nicely.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining us, my dear brother.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we're going to go ahead now and watch a short video of Hari Parshad Prabhu. For those of you who don't have the good fortune to know Hari Parshad, he's a senior disciple of Radhanath Govinda Maharaj. And Hari Parshad Prabhu is a member of the GBC Shastrik Advisory Committee. He's a Sanskrit scholar from a very young age. He's very, very well read, very knowledgeable, and very devoted to Guru Maharaj. About, I don't know, gosh, now I don't remember what year, about 15 years or so ago, he contacted me and he really wanted to do some service for Guru Maharaj's publications. And finally, he came to Bhubaneswar and spent some time with us. And since then, he's been our Sanskrit translator and editor and dear friend. So he was kind enough to record this 6-minute video. He couldn't be with us live tonight, but here's Hari Parshad Prabhu.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnana-Janashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Gour Govinda Swami Namine. So I'm very thankful to His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu and to all the wonderful disciples of Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj that I have been given an opportunity to speak something about Maharaj. I will try to recollect some remembrances that I have with the Bhubaneswar temple. I was not fortunate to meet Maharaj in person, but ever since I got in touch with Maharaj's books, I was deeply impressed with what Maharaj had to say. In my entire life, I had never seen such a powerful speaker on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, as soon as I heard the Vani of Maharaj, it was immediately clear to me that this personality is definitely my Shiksha Guru. I immediately accepted Maharaj as a Shiksha Guru within my heart, and I always longed for the day when I would go to Bhubaneswar and have a darshan of Maharaj's Samadhi. Around 2007, I got an opportunity to go to Bhubaneswar for the first time in my life. When I went to Bhubaneswar, I had arrived in the evening through a train. I went to the temple, took rest in the guest house, and the next morning I came for Mangal Arati, which was supposed to be held first in front of Maharaja's Samadhi, which was previously just next to the highway. When I was standing there next to the Samadhi, I mentioned to Maharaj that, "Oh Maharaj, I wish to be accepted by you as a Shiksha disciple. I do not know what qualification I have. But if you accept me as a Shiksha disciple someday, then please give me a chance to sing Mangal Arati for you on some particular day in the future." When I was praying like that in front of Maharaj's Samadhi, a wonderful thing happened. the brahmachari who was supposed to sing Mangalarti came there and asked me to sing Mangalarti for Maharaj. So on the very first day that I visited Bhubaneswar, I got immediate reciprocation from Maharaj, which indicated to me that Maharaj had kindly accepted me in his service. After this incident, my determination to serve Maharaj increased more and more. And the more I heard Maharaj, the more I became convinced that I am serving a Mahabhagavat, a great devotee of the Lord. It is very rare to find such a Mahabhagavat to whom one can render service. And all incidents in Maharaj's life show that he was a perfect example of what a Gaudiya Vaishnava is. Maharaj is singing, Maharaj is speaking very strongly, at the same time very sweetly. Maharaj's unique style of teaching all his students, and Maharaj's very clear authoritative. These things made a permanent space in my heart, and this space could not be filled by any other personality. I am very thankful to Maharaj that it is because of him that I understood what is the science of Guru Tattva. It is because of him that I got access to so many wonderful literature and the entire culture of Orison Vaishnavism. I am also very thankful to Maharaj that it is because of him that I got association of so many wonderful disciples of him. Finally, I would like to say that I am eternally indebted to whatever Maharaj has contributed in my life. And if I can do a little bit of service for him, then I will think that I have done some effort to try to please him. And this will relieve me a bit, because what he has done for me is so vast and so infinite that I cannot possibly repay him in this life or in many more lives. With that, I would like to conclude my offering to Maharaj. On this day, I would like to pray to Maharaj that, O Maharaj, please kindly never keep me away from the shade of your lotus feet. Please always bestow the highest benefit upon me, and please never cheat me from the highest goal of life, that is Shri Krishna Prem. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you to all the wonderful disciples of Maharaj. Shri Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, although we're not fortunate enough to have Hari Parshad Prabhu's physical association here, I'm very grateful to him for speaking in such a nice way. Hari Parshad Prabhu, as I mentioned, is a disciple of Radha Govinda Maharaj. And Radha Govinda Maharaj once called Hari Parshad Prabhu, he says he's Kavi, he's a poet. He has the full blessings of Radha Govinda Maharaj for writing in Sanskrit, and Hari Parshad Prabhu writes many different verses. And he wrote a beautiful verse in glorification of Guru Maharaj, which I'd like to read. Actually, maybe what I can do is I'll just do another screen share of it. Let me see here. The verse goes like this. Goragraganya gana go to Goloruharam Goranga Guda Changa Gopya the Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami. To the brilliant garland around the neck of the League of Prominent Associates of Lord Gora. In other words, he's saying that Guru Maharaj is amongst the most prominent associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's like a garland. The garland This example is given sometimes by Rupa Goswami and different acharyas in a poetic way to indicate something which is an ornament of those personalities. So he's saying that Guru Maharaj is an ornament of those prominent associates of Lord Gora. He's Gauranga Gudatama, Gopya the Kopa Briksha. He's a Kopa Briksha, a wish-fulfilling tree that's giving this Gauranga Gudatama, this most confidential secrets of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He's Gopal Agada Rektidam. He's a giver of condensed love for Gopal, his family deity. And Yati Singha, he's a lion-like sannyasi. To that personality who's Gour Govinda, Deshika Varam Satatam Namami. Satatam Namami, I constantly offer my humble obeisances. So this is a verse that Hari Parshad Prabhu compiled some years ago for Gour Govinda Maharaj, which we were very pleased with. So now I'd like to request His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, if Maharaj, if you're still present, if you'd like to say a few words. I'm going to repeat the same analogy that I've used a few times in the last few sessions, because I think it's appropriate, that for me to try to introduce Radhanath Maharaj is like a firefly trying to introduce the glories of the sun planet. It's a bit of an absurd joke. Everyone is very, very familiar with Radhanath Maharaj. And I'm very, very grateful, Maharaj, that you would give us some of your very precious time. I know you're being pulled by devotees all over the world. Just a little note for devotees to consider. Sometimes devotees think, oh, with the pandemic, these preachers like Radhanath Maharaj and Niranjan Maharaj or others, now they have more time and we can just contact them. But my experience speaking with them is they're more busy now giving classes online than they were before. Still, I find it very happy in my heart to think about Radhanath Maharaj just staying in Chicago and not going through all these airports and living a horrible life like that. We're very happy to think of you staying in one place, Maharaj. And I want to thank you so much for coming tonight. It means so very, very much to us. So if you could please say a few words, we would all be very grateful. You're muted right now. You need to unmute your mic.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Gour Govinda Swami Iti Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I am sincerely grateful, Madhavananda Prabhu, that you have so kindly included me in this most auspicious and sacred event where we have come together to honor His Divine Grace, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. We have heard of his very unique relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada had circled the world, opened centers in almost every continent, had millions of his books distributed. And when he came to Vrindavan in 1974, and met Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada simultaneously reciprocated with him as a dear friend and simultaneously his spiritual master. I'm remembering my first meeting with Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. I believe it was in 1982. I was with Brahmananda Swami Maharaj at that time, and the two of us went to Bhuvaneshwar. At that time, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was living in that little simple hut. If I remember, there was no electricity. There was just a little lantern on like a little crate that was being used as a table, and so many papers. And he was immersed at the time, it was evening when we came, in translating Srila Prabhupada's books into the Oriyan language. His simplicity completely charmed my heart. He was sitting on the floor, and the reception in which he received us, really, I was feeling it was like the interactions of devotees in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was so much respect, so much affection. In every way, he was going out of his way to make us feel comfortable and to make us feel how happy he was that we came. I was especially observing the interaction with him and Brahmananda Maharaj, because Gour Govinda Maharaj was respecting Brahmananda Maharaj as one of the senior most disciples of Srila Prabhupada. He was actually the first temple president of ISKCON at 26 2nd Avenue. And he was so often with Srila Prabhupada as a secretary. And Gour Govinda Maharaj was just showering so much respect and affection on Brahmananda for being such a senior, intimate associate of Srila Prabhupada. And at the same time, Brahmananda Maharaj was so humbled by that because he had personally eyewitnessed how Srila Prabhupada interacted with Gour Govinda Maharaj in a friendly and loving way that was unique among all the disciples. He was born a devotee to great Vaishnava parents. From his time in the womb, he was hearing the pure chanting of the holy names. From his earliest childhood, he was hearing kirtan, performing kirtan, going village to village, spreading Lord Chaitanya's message. From his early childhood, he knew Bhagavad Gita, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was living completely renounced. And Brahmananda Maharaj, when we were going to Bhuvaneshwar, he was telling me how we were going to visit Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. And he told me some of the background of his life and how he was a completely, totally surrendered devotee to his Guru Maharaj. And Brahmananda Maharaj was completely humbled by Gour Govinda Maharaj, and Gour Govinda Maharaj was completely humbled by Brahmananda Maharaj. And in this way, there was an absolute void of any type of ego. Each one just wanted to appreciate the other because each one knew how much Srila Prabhupada loved the other. And I remember thinking at that time, I believe I had just taken sannyas that year, a little earlier. I was thinking that they're seeing from the perspective of Srila Prabhupada. They're not seeing from their own perspective. Each are seeing how Srila Prabhupada cared for and loved the other. And that's something that is so important among devotees. There was an experience I had personally with Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj on that first meeting. And it was the same experience I had in all the other meetings I had over the years. It was mystical. He gave so much appreciation and encouragement to me that he really made me feel that my existence in ISKCON, my being a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and the service I was rendering was so very important. When we feel that what we're doing is making a difference and important, it is a great empowering experience. And he made me feel so important through his appreciative, encouraging words. But simultaneously, his example, his humility, his knowledge of the scriptures, his realizations of Krishna consciousness, and ultimately his pure unalloyed love for Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev. It made me feel totally insignificant. Now, when both of these experiences are happening simultaneously in the heart, it's wonderful. He's simultaneously making me feel so important and totally unqualified and insignificant. Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, he would tell me sometimes when we would meet that Srila Prabhupada gave him 3 instructions: to translate all of Srila Prabhupada's books into the Oriyan language, to build and complete the temple in Bhubaneswar and preach throughout Orissa, and to preach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message all over the world. The instructions that Srila Prabhupada gave Gour Govinda Maharaj are so much reminiscent of the instructions that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada gave to our Srila Prabhupada. Gour Govinda Maharaj's surrender was complete and absolute on all levels, from the core of his heart to his every word and his every action. I saw the austere conditions he was living in 1982, and it was far more austere previous to that. There was very little help that anyone was given. He never complained. With total gratitude and surrender, whatever the results were, however people treated him, he was surrendered to fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's desires. And he would tell me how it was so important to him in his love and surrender to Srila Prabhupada that the people of the world, in the present and for all time to come, should have total faith that Srila Prabhupada has given and is giving us everything. That there is no shortcoming, there is no lack of the highest realizations of Prema Bhakti in Srila Prabhupada's teachings, Srila Prabhupada's books, and in Srila Prabhupada's example. And so much he told me of his enthusiasm and his empowerment to excavate Srila Prabhupada's books and extract, the essence. And of course, everything in Prabhupada's books is the essence. But he would magnify certain sections of Srila Prabhupada's books that sometimes when we would read, we didn't really notice so much. Because he wanted us to know that everything you need to know always is in Prabhupada's books. And here it is. Everything you need to know to attain the highest revelations of Goloka Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada has given us. In other words, his whole life and soul was to inspire devotees to have this complete faith in Srila Prabhupada. And he could do that practically like no other because he had such total faith in Srila Prabhupada. And that faith was expressed in the totality of his mood of surrender. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj, so exalted. And in any situation he was put in, he was simply a lover of Krishna that was totally fearless because of his faith and his love. I believe it was 1994. It was the first time I was invited to attend a GBC meeting. And when I walked in, Gour Govinda Maharaj was speaking. He was speaking so forcefully. He was so senior in every way, in his knowledge, in his years of practicing Krishna consciousness, and his love for Prabhupada. But at the same time, there was so much humility and respect. How to have total courage to speak one's mind, and at the same time, have the humility and the respect of Amani na mana dena. Gour Govinda Maharaj would often cite this verse of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Trinarapi sunichena taror iba sahishnana. Amani na mana dena kirtaniya sadahari. Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj, he lived that verse. For the rest of us, we're trying to practice that verse in order to please our Guru and Krishna. For Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj, the manifestation of the of the truth of that verse was simply an outpouring of his love for Krishna. And his deep understanding of the very heart of Srila Prabhupada's mission and Srila Prabhupada's teachings. He was born and spent his entire life in the service of Krishna. And in 1996, on the centennial of Srila Prabhupada and the disappearance day of the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, completely immersed in speaking the most confidential pastimes of Sri Sri Radha Krishna and how Krishna manifested the form of Jagannath, overwhelmed by Sri Radha's love. It was speaking that story and hearing the holy names of the Lord that he departed from this world. More than anyone, through his teachings, his writings, and his life, Gour Govinda Maharaj revealed the supreme importance of Sri Jagannath Puri and Odisha. Srila Prabhupada built his international headquarters in Sri Mayapur, Navadvip Dham. And thousands of devotees come every year for the festivals. And Srila Prabhupada built the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. And so many thousands and thousands of devotees are coming to Vrindavan. At the same time, the greatest portion of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela in Jagannath Puri. And many of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's supremely most intimate, empowered devotees were from Odisha. Gour Govinda Maharaj really revealed to our movement, and he's revealing to the whole world the great treasure of significance of the eternal Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. When I read some of the beautiful books that Madhavananda Prabhu and your God brothers and God sisters have published of Gour Govinda Maharaja's talks, we could feel this experience that Gour Govinda Maharaj, when he's speaking, his heart, his soul is in the Gambhira, along with Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's revealing the feelings, the lessons, the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu within that most intimate part of his life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent almost 12 years of his life in the Gambhira, tasting the sweetness of Sri Radha's love. He gave us, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, he gave us the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And I could always feel Srila Prabhupada's inconceivable appreciation and empowerment toward Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. And today, in your presence, I'm truly feeling completely insignificant in every way, just remembering the glorious, loving, devotional service of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. And there's no happier state of mind than humbling oneself at the lotus feet of such a great Vaishnav. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. I thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Radhanath Maharaja. I remember listening to you reminds me of some lectures sometimes our Guru Maharaj would give. And he would start and he would say, I feel confused. I feel like I'm standing on the ocean and I don't know where to jump in. This Gaura Leela is so vast. And also your talk was just a complete feast for the heart. And you said so many wonderful, wonderful things, but I would like to just give a little reflection on some of the messages that really touched my heart from it. I feel like you gave a window into the hearts of a wonderful Vaishnava Sangha that I'd never heard about before, between one of my greatest heroes, two of my greatest heroes, my Guru Maharaj, of course, but another is Brahmananda Maharaj. And it struck me very much how you were saying that the two of them, they were seeing from Srila Prabhupada's perspective. I found that very, very deep. This is the nature of a true disciple. As individuals, we have our psychophysical nature. We may agree or disagree or not be comfortable with someone. But when we follow Guru and Gurudev enters into the heart of that disciple, Vishrambena Guru Seva, as Rupa Goswami says, then the disciple starts seeing things from the perspective of the Guru. And I so much appreciated your description of how both of them were so humble and loving with the other one, understanding how much Srila Prabhupada loved that other devotee. There's so many things I could go on and on and on. We have a lot of speakers tonight. So many things that I appreciate so much. And Maharaj, I especially appreciate you. You're the embodiment of Mahaprabhu's mood of encouragement to others. You've personally encouraged me so much. I remember in Jagannath Puri when you picked up this stray dog in 1996 or 97, and you kind of took him with you out of your compassion. That means so much to me. You've always encouraged us. We're in Puri because of your encouragement. We're trying to do something. We hope very much that you come and visit us there also. I'd like to give an invitation to the devotees at this time because it's a very rare and special opportunity to get some association online, as it may be, with Radhanath Maharaj, who's such a high caliber Vaishnav. If anybody has any reflections you'd like to offer or perhaps questions, just briefly to Maharaj, please, you can go ahead and type those things in. Or Radhanath Maharaj, perhaps you have some other comments you want to finish with.
I'm so grateful to you, Madhavananda Prabhu. You've really taken Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj's mission of love as your life and soul, and I thank you for that. Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, in every sense, was truly an acharya. How he was so learned that every single word he spoke, he could support with our Vaishnava scriptures and Vedic evidence. And Sharanagati, when he would give his lectures, it was simultaneously so sweet and it was like electrifying, like a thunderbolt sometimes. And it had the effect of awakening our devotional service. And when he would sing the beautiful songs, he would spontaneously, as he was giving classes, spontaneously, he would erupt with enthusiasm and chant Narottam Das Thakur's bhajans, or Bhakti Vinod Thakur's bhajans, or Lochan Das Thakur's bhajans, or verses from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam. He was an embodiment of spontaneous love, yet always humble, always respectful. Even in his most courageous times, he embodied Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spirit, and that was how he surrendered his life to Srila Prabhupada. It was just extraordinary, and each and every one of us is unlimitedly fortunate that either directly or indirectly we could be in the presence of such a pure, empowered acharya in the service of Srila Prabhupada.
One message that I get from you a lot, from your heart and your expressions today, Maharaj, is you continually to speak about the humility and the respect that you saw in the behavior of our Guru Maharaj. And I find that so beautiful. And just as you said how my Guru Maharaj and Brahmananda Maharaj were seeing each other from the perspective of Srila Prabhupada, we also, as disciples and followers of our Guru Maharaj, we want to learn more about his perspective. And it's very valuable, you sharing his comments about his humility and his respect to others. I can't thank you enough for that. There's a few comments I'd like to address to you. We're, by the way, just breaking the rules. Rules are meant to be broken, especially when you're with Radhanath Maharaja. Abhay Nimai Prabhu, your disciple, lives in Vrindavan. He's written some comment. I'll go ahead and read it out. It says, Jai Guru Maharaj, my humble obeisances to you. Gurudev, you're my Diksha Guru, and Sri Srimad Gour Govinda Maharaj is as our Siksha Guru. Do you have any instructions for us to combine your mood and his mood?
My mood is I'm praying for and aspiring for the day when I could truly be a servant of a servant of a servant of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj.
And Purushottam Tirtha, my famous mouse-like, lion-like roaring godbrother, comments, Maharaj, your words are just a stream of nectar growing into our hearts. And Dina Dayadri Mataji comments, Dear Maharaj, please give us your blessings to see with our Guru Maharaj's eyes, to feel that we are doing important service for him, but at the same time realize how completely insignificant we are. Please kindly give us your blessings. Beautiful comment. And our godbrother Pushkaraksa Prabhu, you may know he's going to speak later tonight. Pushkaraksa Prabhu is the first Western disciple of our Guru Maharaj. He has some very wonderful memories. He's saying, all glories to the non-envious devotees who can glorify a pure devotee. Actually, we can't glorify a Vaishnava if there's envy in our hearts. It's not possible. And it's so wonderful to hear someone of your caliber, Maharaj, and such a quality of heart to glorify something is so very, very nourishing to us. I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So we're going to go ahead. Just as I said, sometimes it makes me feel really happy when I break the rules because bhakti should be spontaneous. Then it's really relishable. So we had our schedule and we've worked very hard on the schedule. We've written to everybody about it. Already tonight, we were disappointed, not in him, but that we couldn't get Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj's Sangha. He's having some health issues. He's okay, nothing real serious, but it wasn't possible for him to take part. He offered his apologies. And we were going to hear something next from Amarendra Prabhu, who I'll introduce later. But there's a very special godbrother who I haven't seen in a number of years, who's here tonight. I'd like to give a little introduction to him and invite Gokul Das to speak something. Gokul Das is from Australia. And he came to our Guru Maharaj several years before I did. We were speaking about him in a previous session, Raghava Pandit Prabhu and I, and both of us had the same experience with Gokul. that when Raghava had come to Guru Maharaj in Mayapur, he was a new person and just was very attracted to Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj turned to one devotee there and told him, you help this young man to get to Bhubaneswar. And that devotee was Gokul. And I remember later on, I was having some difficulty and I had to go to make some money somewhere. And I spoke with Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj immediately contacted that same devotee, Gokul, and said, Gokul, you help Madhavananda to go to Singapore. And so I did, and we were there selling some paintings and things. And then Guru Maharaj went to Bali, and we were with a Pandit and Gokul, and I think maybe Ananta Tapasri Maharaj was there at that time also. And everybody, because they all had money, they all went to Bali. But I'm terrible at making money. I didn't have enough money for a plane ticket. So everybody left, and I was stuck in Singapore, lamenting and feeling very, very lonely and very, very sad by myself, thinking of all of our God brothers there in Bali with Guru Maharaj. And then the next day I get a phone call from Gokul, and Gokul says, Guru Maharaj was talking to me, and he told me that I should phone you and tell you that I'm sending a ticket for you to come to Bali. So as Raghava put it, Gokul has always been kind of a transcendental messenger right up until the very end. In 1996, when Guru Maharaj went to Mayapur, prior to that, a little before that, Raghava Pandit and Gokul and some devotees had purchased a new car for Guru Maharaj. And this time when Guru Maharaj went to Mayapur, Gokul decided we have to have the car there for Guru Maharaj just in case he wants to leave early or something. And really, in one sense, there was no need for that. There was no precedent for that, but he was just inspired in the heart. And so he drove that car to Kolkata and picked Guru Maharaj up in the airport and then drove him to Mayapur. And none of us knew, but the most terrible, inconceivable thing was about to happen. And Guru Maharaj left this world, and then Gokul was there with the car. And they put Guru Maharaj's transcendental body back in that car. And Gokul, who's our messenger, brought Guru Maharaj's body back to Bhubaneswar. So I'm breaking our rules a little tonight to go outside of our schedule. And we have some wonderful devotees who are scheduled to speak a little later. But I want to take this chance to hear something from such a dear God brother, Gokul Das Das. I never could figure out why you're Gokul Das Das. I mean, who's Gokul Das? We had this Das Das. Maybe you can also tell us that. And something about your experiences with Guru Maharaj. And I feel so bad. Everybody's going to hate me for saying this, but I'm trying to ask everybody to keep it to like 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. But I'm just so happy, Gokul, that you're here tonight with us. Thank you, Prabhu. I hope please unmute yourself and you can go ahead and say something, please.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Namo Vishnu Padaya. Om Agyantiminandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Niti Namane. Vandeham Sri Guru Varam Sri Rupanuga Pravaram Braja Rasa Rasikam Cha Narayanam Tam Papannam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nivishesha Shrunyavari Paschatya Deshatayane. Namo Vishnu Padaya Charja Singharupine Srimad Bhakti Piyana Keshaviti Namane Hotimatra Taritraya Swasritanan Chapalane Jiva Dukhe Sarataya Sinam Prem Daini. Ajanu Lambito Vajo Kanaka Vadato Samkirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Mote Uda Radhadava Mote Udhara Radhadava Dhamma Prajita Kaitvatro. So because we're doing very quickly, I'm doing like sutras. Guru Maharaj is Bhakta Bhagavad. He's rejecting cheating religion. So many things to speak. Where to start? I was thinking you were saying about picking up everybody It's like a great curse for me. I'm also Jagadish Pandit, 91 Jagadish Pandit, 92 Raghav Pandit. Sometime in Adelaide, Damodar Maharaj, I was thinking about that, and Guru Maharaj said to me, you look after him. And that's like the biggest burden I ever took. So this was my position with Guru Maharaj. First of all, as you say, I'm just like the smallest, I don't know. Guru Maharaj used to use me like, I felt like in every Sangha you have some different feelings. So in this Sangha I feel like, you know, when you're walking down the street and you see some big muscly gentleman like 7 foot tall and 6 foot across his shoulders, and he has one little poodle, tiny little dog, and the dog will bark at you. I feel very protective of Guru Maharaj. And everybody else could just kick me like a small dog, but in this is my mood. I have so many more senior godbrothers, and I'm remembering our God family, always as disciples of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. We give our respect to Pratik Pavan Prabhu, who is Guru Maharaj's first disciple. Also, I'm remembering Sadhu Prabhu, Devaki Mataji, the pujaris in the temple who gave me so much shelter, like Shankar Pandit Prabhu, Adi Purush Prabhu, Ishahavatar, Panchatattva Prabhu. Of course, temple management headed by Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, Sachinanda Prabhu, the brahmacharis headed by Madhusudan Prabhu. So many beautiful devotees in Bhuvaneshwar, Ujjwal and Nilamani. Some of them are not with us anymore. Mahaprabhu Prabhu, Mishrambar Prabhu. All of these devotees showed me so much affection. And I stayed there in Bhuvaneshwar, and I got so much, maybe backing, like Jagadatma and Anuradha Prabhu. It was so beautiful to see them today. And Chidanand Prabhu and Lilavati, they helped me so much. I should say something, Nandanachari Prabhu. So we have such a beautiful God family there. So I've been watching over these few days and thinking, at first I saw Anupam Prabhu. First I saw Tapasvi Maharaj, of course, and then Anupam Prabhu. And he was talking about the relationship that devotees disciples cannot be friends of Guru Maharaj. And that thought came to me today. It is late here in Perth, in Western Australia. It's the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Pragan Kesh Swami Maharaj. And we see that these clusters of appearance days, Guru Maharaj also disappearing on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day. So this is not insignificant. We see all these personalities appearing before the appearance of, around the time of Nityananda Prabhu, the appearance of Mahaprabhu, because they are Gaur Priyajan. And always we feel these relationships with this, our Guru Varga. And I think I understand my relationship with Guru Maharaj very much in the pranam mantra of Srila Bhakti Pragan Kesh Swami Maharaj, our beloved Prabhupada's Sannyas Guru. There's one line there that resonates with me very deeply. Swasritananch Shapalane. So I know that I am Swasritananch to my Guru Maharaj. And wherever I go, he's doing that palan. He's protecting me, he's maintaining me. He picked me up in Australia. I first met the devotees in 86 or something. I'll quickly, I don't want to speak about myself, but I joined the farm in 89 in Moolumbar, and within weeks I met Lagudi Prabhu, who had stayed with Guru Maharaj and Bhagavat Maharaj. And he had this picture, that laughing picture of Guru Maharaj on his wall. And I knew that he was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. I just joined the temple, I didn't know anything. But I remember one day we came to his room. We'd been in the field ploughing with the bullocks, and my eyes were very blinded by the light. And as I adjusted, I saw this picture of Guru Maharaj on the wall. And I asked him, who is that? And he said, oh, that is Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. I said, oh, who is that? Who's that? You know, I thought you were a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He said, yes, he is Srila Prabhupada for me. And then he spoke for 8 hours on Guru Maharaj's pastimes, including these amazing pastimes when Guru Maharaj fell into samadhi at the Viraha Mahotsav of Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj in 1978 after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada. I remember walking back, so this was midday, and 8 p.m. at night I was walking through a dark field, and I thought, I have to meet that personality. So that opportunity came later in the year, 6 months later. Guru Maharaj came. I heard from him. Immediately I was absolutely astonished at the incredible... He asked a question on Chaitanya Charitamrita and then spoke for 3 hours and came back exactly on the point. And I was absolutely astonished. And very quickly after that, I asked to become his disciple. He accepted me. Very simple. Guru Maharaj said to me at that time, he said, all you need is a bona fide spiritual master. He said, you must hear Hari Katha from the lips of a pure devotee. And like a crazy man, I went, and when I joined the farm there was Vaijanti Malla was in one house and Anurada Mataji was in the other house. Together they were. I saw them today. It was so nice. And actually, Vaijanti Malla's husband was the temple president. And I went to him one morning. I said, I'm just going to Sydney to hear from my Guru Maharaj. He told me I should hear Harikatha. And he said, okay, I was milking the cows in those days. So this is related to the Gokul Dastas. I was milking the cows. And I said, I'll come back after 2 days. And I just kept going. Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Bhubaneswar. 6 years later, I remember Narada Muni, now our Tridandi Maharaj, he came with the Gurukul children about 92 in Bhubaneswar. And he said, I'm waiting for you to come back to Moolamba. I never came. So as I said, I traveled. I was going to say one thing. The first class in the Brisbane temple, Guru Maharaj wrapped the cartels around his hands and he started to chant, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. And then the devotees started to sing, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Guru Maharaj stopped, put the cartels down. And it was like, Lagudi Prabhu described Guru Maharaj like the most soft, gentle person. But when he sat on that asan, like a lion, he said, stop. Do you know what acharya means? Acharya means, I lead, you follow. So this was my first lesson. It's to follow Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj was the acharya, as Maharaj was just saying so beautifully. So on that tour, we were recording all the classes. When we got to Bhubaneswar, the devotee Parameshwar Prabhu, who had been recording, he left the microphone and tapes with me. And I began to record Guru Maharaj's lectures from that time, I think. This was November in 1990. And that became my seva, to sit beside Guru Maharaj every day. What I found very soon, that if you sat beside Guru Maharaj and recorded his lectures, you would look out across the faces, especially if there's some Western devotees there. And one devotee, their eyes would come out of their head and their jaw would hit the ground. And you could see that Guru Maharaj was doing an operation on that person. And we used to walk, this was sometime later, obviously when we first got there, even the temple was not there, but later when the temple was opened, we would walk down the stairs, go to Guru Maharaj's room, and I got to know after some time that person would tap me on the shoulder and say, Prabhu, I've got to have that tape. So what I would, at that time, I then went I had no money, I had nothing. So anyway, somehow I went to Guru Maharaj and said, can I have some tape? I need a tape player to make some copies. And he said, oh, so many people giving me, they're in the room. They wouldn't give me. Anyway, I purchased all these things. And in that way, we started a bit of a tape ministry. And then after some time, I started to transcribe the lectures like this. And then with Mahashakti Mataji, she used to type them for me. And in doing so, I used to research with the help of Prataparudra Prabhu. I learned Bengali, I learned Oriya, I learned Devanagari script. And we would try to compile the lectures. And so that I could, like this, I would make a bundle. And I would put them and give them the devotees like a bundle. And that became known as Gopal Jew Publications. So at that time, after I took initiation Ram Navami 91 with Madhavananda Prabhu and Paramananda Puri Prabhu. And I got a visa, 5-year visa in England on that. I was actually on that Rath Yatra that Raghava was speaking about yesterday. When it was in England, it went to Europe. And in the middle of the year, Guru Maharaj called me back, Rath Yatra time. There was no Western devotees there. So from that time, maybe the next 9 months, I stayed there. There was very few devotees until the next Gaur Purnima. I think I was the only brahmachari in the ashram. And then Gopinath Acharya and some Prabhupada disciples came. We used to stay in the back in an old construction hut, wooden hut with a cow dung floor. My seva was to milk the cows still. So you're asking about Gokul Das. So that first Gaur Purnima, I remember I went to a lecture in the Gurukul at Mayapur about on music, Gaudiya Kirtan. And I heard the story of Katurigram, the first Gaur Purnima festival, when the whole Panchatattva descended into the Kirtan. I was very, very attracted. Narottam Das Thakur was leading that Kirtan. And if you read Bhakti Ratnakar, the principal Mridanga player in that Kirtan was Gokul Das. So Narottam, he's a disciple of Narottam Das Thakur. So Guru Maharaj didn't know that. And I didn't know that. When Guru Maharaj initiated, he said, your name is Gokul Das, Das. So everybody's like, oh, Gokul Das, Das, what is this? So I went to Guru Maharaj after, I said, is it Gokul Das or Gokul Das Das? And Guru Maharaj said, no, Gokul Das Das. And then I went back and I had this little pamphlet from that lecture. And in there was this pastime, and it was mentioning the name of Gokul Das. So I am the disciple of that. And also my seva was always with cows. So Gokul is... Anyway, Guru Maharaj knows everything. This is Guru Maharaj's perfection. And I had not told Guru Maharaj about that. And still to this day, that is my most beautiful... One day I want to be in that kirtan. So, how am I going for time?
Well, we're over half an hour overtime right now.
I just thinking, like, I was listening to the Tapasvi Maharaj, how he said that Guru Maharaj will make us very hard. I feel the experience of being in Bhubaneswar was just many, many trials. If you see, I don't know anything about blacksmiths, but I've seen. It's like they put the iron into the fire, they pull out the iron and then they beat it. And they put the iron back in the fire, they take it out and they beat it. I think this is my experience with Guru Maharaj. I don't know what I've become, but it's become very, very intense. These tests Guru Maharaj put us through. One time, many devotees probably know that Jagadish told Guru Maharaj that I kissed a girl. Guru Maharaj, put down his cane. He was beating me with his cane. Put the cane down and he slapped my face so hard. I went against the kitchen wall and was knocked out and fell on the ground. And Guru Maharaj said, I'm an old man. When I initiate my disciples, I expand myself into every one of you. And I'm an old man. Why should these lusty things come to me? So we've been hearing today about how we should know that Guru Maharaj is always present. He's present with us because he's in us. I know that when I travel with Srila Narayan Maharaj, I could sit in a corner and not say anything. And devotees would walk up to me and say, "Are you a disciple of Srimad Gour Govinda Maharaj?" And I said, "How do you know?" He said, "I don't, these devotees would say, I don't know, there's something about you. You have some gravity, this thing we are carrying with us that Guru Maharaj has put in us." So this is very intense. I wanted to go to that. I was thinking about Guru Maharaj's disappearance today, but I haven't got enough time to speak today. I heard the very beautiful glorification by Jayanti Mala today. And what she described was like so crystal clear. I think that was the last and most intense fire. I was thinking about Radhanath Prabhu, how everything was perfect. This embankment of separation was the culmination of the. I'm just a bongy guy. I just type up some letter. I used to give some papers, like I showed you. But then Raga Pandit came, and with his beautiful creativity and understanding everything, first we went and purchased a little computer that's still sitting there in Bali called the Dvaitacharya, and the printer was called Sita Devi. And we began to type out these lectures. And these lectures, we had these piles of books in a little pink thing. I'm looking for it in my bookshelf here somewhere. But we would take the most incredible lectures that we picked the best. Or Raghav Pandit. Raghav Pandit is just a nectar hound. He would just pick up all the best nectar. And there was one lecture particularly I remember. Jagadish and I had been in Calcutta changing about 2 lakhs of rupees in some bodgy downtown market to bring back to Guru Maharaj, and we brought 2 devotees with us. And all the way back on the train, we were talking Guru Tattva. You should come and meet our Guru Maharaj. This was our activity, my activity anyway. I used to collect people and put them on trains and bring them to Bhubaneswar. And Guru Maharaj, the first day he spoke the verse, Sadai Mana Krishna Paravindayor, that and that was the source of all loving services, where Guru Maharaj was saying things like, and so Srimati Radharani is the source of all sorts of loving services to Krishna. So she is the original Guru Tattva. Only Radharani can give you the opportunity to serve Krishna. Without Radharani's mercy, there's no opportunity. Krishna is completely under Radha. He does not belong to anyone else but Radharani. So without Radharani's mercy, how can you get the opportunity to serve Krishna? Without Radharani, nobody is Guru. So this is our Guru Maharaj. And Raghava, I was thinking today as we compiled those incredible lectures he was speaking earlier, I saw from around the world on these verses, particularly on Chaitanya Charan Maharaj was speaking about them. Who else was speaking? That Prabhu, who was doing the pujari, doing our Achandipika type thing, research. Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. So you imagine that and also Madhukar Prabhu, he was speaking this Ducky verse, this greed that Krishna had to taste the sweetness of Radharani's love. And Guru Maharaj was always speaking this Brahmana Gita. I spoke this philosophy the other day from Prem Sarovara, that Guru Maharaj spoke so many times. If we understand Guru Maharaj's mood, how we see Guru Maharaj through our ears, explaining Radha Krishna Pranay Vrikati Ladini Shakti Rasmat, how Krishna has accepted the duty and bhav of Radhika in order to taste her moods. And then if you want to make him Krishna, how will he taste that? How do we get devotees to understand this? Guru Maharaj said in Singapore, the Singapore temple president, if you want to make Mahaprabhu Krishna by putting a peacock feather on his head, then you break his legs and make him curved in 3 places. How strongly Guru Maharaj was speaking, and I'm getting to understand is Guru Tattva, Gora Tattva, Nam Tattva, Jiva Tattva. So Guru Maharaj was telling us many times as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he left on his appearance day. He said, as he left early, I'm thinking I will also go. Actually, it was not my choice to take that car. I had taken a vow from the year before that I would not return. I would never go back to Mayapur. Guru Maharaj said, such a nasty place. How could Guru Maharaj talk like that about the Holy Dham? I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I saw the things that had happened in 95. I said, I won't go. But Guru Maharaj said, he called me to his room. Ananta Prabhu, the Pasri Maharaj had gone to Singapore. He said, we're going, you're taking the car. I will see you there. That is another. I think what Vajayanti Mala said is, do you want me to speak more on this? Have we time?
Please do.
I'll say quickly, but Guru Maharaj said, you take the car. We drove to Ramuna, in the place of Rasikananda Prabhu, where his disciples all left at the time. His samadhi is there in Ramuna, surrounded by all of his disciples. Next morning, we drove to Kolkata and Guru Maharaj was delayed. The plane was delayed. He came out into the car. I had an 18-year-old wife. She's still here, luckily.
She's no longer 18, though.
Last drop of Guru Maharaj's mercy. She was the last initiated disciple of Guru Maharaj. And I left her on the side of the road and drove off. I left her with Ilabhati Prabhu. She said, bye. Guru Maharaj said, 20 minutes later. Guru Maharaj told me 20 minutes later we're in the car driving. So I left her on the side of the road in Bhubaneswar. I don't know how we stayed married. Anyway, it's so much pastime. You could tell even before that how we came from Malaysia and dreams that Guru Maharaj told us to come. But anyway, we drove Ramuna. We got to Kolkata that night. We went into the hotel room. I took Guru Maharaj's bags and Guru Maharaj had told me, you take the car, you're in charge of the car, you stay with the car. So I was going out to the car to go and sleep in the back. And Guru Maharaj said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the car. And Guru Maharaj said, no. Pointed right beside his bed. There was like a 1.5 foot space beside his bed in the hotel room. He said, you're sleeping right here. And I knew something was happening. So next morning we went Mayapur. Everything was set up. Next day, Guru Maharaj called me to his room. And he told me, don't park the car anywhere where anybody can see. He said, so many envious eyes are there. So he said, you take the car, go to Kolkata. But I'm always like, it's just hopeless disciple. I never listened to anything Guru Maharaj told me. So I said, no, I have a friendship with the devotees from Sripad Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj in Navadvip, in the Manipuri Mat. They have a garden, so I'll take the car there and I'll park there. Won't go so long, but I was asleep. That day was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day, and I was reading. I'd gone to Yoga Pit the day before. I was doing some research actually based on a lecture that Dr. Fakir Mahan had told me about, that in Kali Yuga, Guru must accept 2 types of disciple, Asur and Sur, divine and demoniac. And I was trying to find some references to these lectures in the books of lectures of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And I'd taken Prasad, midday Prasad, and I just took a little rest. I was thinking, from the time I took rest until we arrived in Bhubaneswar the next day, I think 24 hours more, I didn't sleep. Maybe 2 hours in the car, coming back. But just, I was lying in the back of the car reading, and my wife appeared. She was 18 years old. She was telling me today, I'd never been across the Ganges. I didn't know what Bhubaneswar was. I mean, Bhubaneswar, Navadvip. So it's a long way through, like it's 2.5 kilometers, I think, to where we were. So somehow she made her way there with Chandrakala. She said, Guru Maharaj is calling you, you must come quickly. Madhavananda has been thrown out from the temple. He's been distributing this Nityananda's appearance day. He's distributing this dangerous magazine.
Who said that?
Guru Maharaj, you had been thrown out from the temple, and I was told to come back and collect you.
Who told you that I'd been kicked out? Because I was never kicked out.
Guru Maharaj told me. That's the message I got. Madhavananda is to come. I went to Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj said, you find Madhavananda and you take him back, he will stay with you.
Really? Because I spoke to Guru Maharaj about it, and he never said anything about me leaving or anything at all like that either. Anyway, go on.
Well, Guru Maharaj told me that's why I'd been called back. I'd been called back to collect you. So I went in. There was some darshans going on. There were some darshans going on. Some devotees came from the Sankirtan bus from Vrindavan. That was the bus that you went back to Bhubaneswar in. And they were Oriya devotees, because many devotees joined in Orissa. And Guru Maharaj said, if you don't like to stay here, a little touristy, you go Mayapur, Mumbai, Vrindavan, any place where there is nice prasad. But if you want to stay in Bhubaneswar, it's Rani dal and one sabji. Many left, but they were still in so much affection with Guru Maharaj. So they would come every year to have darshan. So I'd gone inside. I went out to meet these devotees. I was standing at the door, and then Bhakta Rupa came with Chandrika and Vajayantimala. I was waiting for you. I was waiting for Madhavananda. And then I heard what Vajayantimala said. Inside I could hear Guru Maharaj screaming, Gopi, 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 Radhe! Like very loudly. Screaming, and I was looking through the window. What's going on? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, the door burst open, and Vajayantimala came, Chandrika came, and just Bhakti Rupa came afterwards. And I looked at Bhakti Rupa and I said, what's going on? And he smiled. He's like, Bhav. And I remember turning to Guru Maharaj. He was holding his neck beads like this. Said, Nam Koro, Nam Koro. And he fell back on the bed. I ran in. We were holding Guru Maharaj. And then Amarendra Prabhu, some of the other devotees just said, go and get a doctor, go and get a doctor. So when Vajayantimala said that, by the time she had already reached bottom, Rasikananda and I were like jumping from like Hanuman down the stairs. We sprinted from the front gate to the doctor's post. I had some history. I spent my younger life as a lifeguard here in Australia and had trained quite high level. So I said, there was no doctor, everything was closed. I said, Rasikananda, you go to the front reception, I'll go back. And when I reached back, Guru Maharaj was lying on his back. There was so much foam coming from his mouth. Actually, what you spoke, somebody showed me some Shastra when we went back to Bhubaneswar, exactly how Vaishnav leaves. Every stage was there. Asta Sattvic Bhav was there, foam was coming. Even one sadhu said at Guru Maharaj's Viraha Mahotsav, I told Gour Govinda Maharaj not to speak that katha. And you hear how Chandrika was calling Guru Maharaj. He said, another sadhu in Puri, because this particular katha is, we know it's from Guru Maharaj's, I shouldn't say, but from Orissa. So other Vaishnavas had left speaking this katha. And I was in my complete mundane mode, and I saw Guru Maharaj was unable to have a clear airway. So I rolled him on his side into recovery position, and I placed his arm beside him. And I took my left hand, and I began to wipe away the foam from his mouth. I put my left hand into his mouth, and Guru Maharaj bit my hand. So I took my hand out again. Then again, I put my hand in Guru Maharaj's bit. Afterwards, I had cuts in my hand. The second time, very clearly in my heart, Guru Maharaj said to me, get your hand out of my mouth, I'm leaving. Wow. So I held him. You spoke about that doctor who, what his name was?
Damodar Swarup.
Damodar Swarup came with Bhakti Rupa. I also took Guru Maharaj's carotid pulse. I never felt a pulse like that. Like, you say like fibrillation, just his whole body was incredible. And they yelled at me, and the doctor came and held it. And like you said, Damodar Swarup took Guru Maharaj's pulse by the like Ayurvedic style. And they said, go, get the car. We'll take him to the hospital. Everything will be okay. Don't worry. I remember him saying to me, don't worry. We'll take Guru Maharaj to the hospital. Everything will be okay. So I ran, like you can imagine, out of my mind. Anupama said she doesn't know how she got to Navadvip that day. I don't know. This was 8 o'clock at night. Everything was pitch dark. I had no rickshaw. I don't know how I got across the Ganges. There's no boats at that time of night. Somehow I got across the Ganges, and then I was running through Navadvip, and there was no lights. It was just darkness. And I arrived there, and I went. There was a big gate. I opened the gate and went to get the car, and we lost the key. And so for 1 hour, 2 hours, I went inside. Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj came out with all the disciples. We broke the back lock trying to open the car, and we gave up. Okay, we'll go in the morning. We'll see. Guru Maharaj will be okay. Because I didn't know what had happened. So I came back out, and in the grass in front of the gate, the car key was there. So when I'd taken the gate key out, the car key had fallen in the grass. And somehow by the torchlight, we found that key, we grabbed it, and I drove that car like, have you ever seen a rally car driving? A lot faster than that. I was overtaking trucks on the left side, right side. We came all the way around into Mayapur. As we drove in, you see light coming out from a room. There was beams coming out. And when I walked in, I remember the first impression was like Vajanti Mala said, Guru Maharaj was like, if you see a great ocean, it was like completely peaceful. And Guru Maharaj was like porcelain. I'll finish with one story because I'm going too long. But why, after everything, they went to Guru Prabhupada's Samadhi. Ashram Maharaj, Govinda Bhakkata Prabhu came back from Srila Bhakti Puri Maharaj, and he said, Srila Puri Maharaj has said that we should give him Samadhi here in Mayapur. And I just said, forget it. We're putting Guru Maharaj in the car, we're going back to Bhubaneswar. So that's on me. And I want to say one thing, because I know a lot of devotees have thought about this, that maybe Guru Maharaj should be here, maybe Guru Maharaj should be there. You should understand this is Guru Maharaj. It is his intention. He is where he wants to be. He wants Madhavananda today to do this. Everything is happening by his. Don't think that we make. I want Guru Maharaj to be in in Gadagiri, maybe. I don't care. Guru Maharaj has made his decision. So he's where he wants to be. When we were driving, we left midnight. And 4 hours we arrived. I just want to explain this nice pastime. I think the devotees will appreciate. When we were passing the Kolkata airport, the devotees had all fallen asleep. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I had the lights on in the car, and they were reflecting off the wall beside the airport. And as I looked into the rear vision mirror, I could see Guru Maharaj's face with every intimate detail. We had sat him on the middle with his feet like this, and his feet were beside my chair. I was massaging his feet all the way. They were warm. No. Jagadish was in the car. He was saying very clearly, no, Guru Maharaj is just in Samadhi. He will come out of Samadhi. He's done this before. Don't worry, we'll get back to Bhubaneswar. Everything will be okay. But I remember looking in the rear vision mirror, I could see Guru Maharaj clearly. But and Amarendra Prabhu was sleeping on one shoulder, and Jagadish was sleeping on the other shoulder, and Lila Avatar was in the back, and they were all black. But I could see Guru Maharaj. I was like, I looked back, and I could see Guru Maharaj, because his face was in the rear vision mirror. And why is that? And I turned the lights off, so just the parking lights were on, so I had no reflections or anything. And Guru Maharaj's face became even more clear. So I think he was self-effulging. So when you looked at him, you couldn't see any of the marks on his face. It was like porcelain. It was like Vajayanti Mala described. He was just glowing, self-effulging. So many more things I can speak. But I think this was like, as I said, the final fire. I remember as we arrived in Bhubaneswar that afternoon, so 12 hours later we arrived in Bhubaneswar. And we went past the Vishwavidyalaya, the university, just maybe 2 or 3 kilometers short of the temple, and the whole of Bhubaneswar had come out. And devotees were just throwing themselves on the car. I remember Mahashakti said to me after I pulled up, I couldn't move for about an hour. I just sat in the driver's seat for an hour. Afterwards, everybody was moving here and there. I've never been more emotionally, physically, spiritually, such a trauma. It's good I don't speak so much, but that pain will never go away. That's my greatest treasure. I'm going to leave it there. Jai Vishnupada, Jai Srila Gour Govinda Swami Gurudev. I wish I could speak more. You could speak days, hours, years. Hare Krishna.
I think everybody would be very, very happy he did. There's so many devotees making comments. You really touched everyone's heart. I really appreciate it. And so many details that I didn't know about the trip back. I heard something about you losing the key and some vague things, but thank you so much for sharing all this. I just can't say enough.
I think what Vajayanti Mala, I think next to this operation we should do. It's actually a momentous lila. There's so much. You could speak days and days and days. I mean, I'm listening and I'm here. I was thinking how, you said, can I speak 10 minutes? I don't think I could even do a pranam mantra in 10 minutes when you think about Guru Maharaj.
You should help us. Parthasarathi Maharaj keeps pushing me that I should expand. I should make another edition of When Good Fortune Arises and make it bigger. I have some ideas after hearing these wonderful accounts from you tonight. It's so hard. I can't imagine what that journey must have been like. Thank you so much, Gokul. I really, really appreciate it. Gokul, please come and visit us sometime in Puri. I don't see you enough. We have a nice private personal place. I like small, intimate Sundays. I would love to spend some time with you sometime.
I can't believe it's 25 years later. That's a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
My children have all grown up and left me. I think my wife wants to, but I keep hanging on. Hare Krishna.
Come with your wife. It's okay. And actually, even something, I'll tell you a secret which will make you very inspired to come. Just about halfway between Puri and Konark is a shop on the right side of the road as you're going to Konark, which rents surfboards.
Now you're talking. You just have to appeal to my sense gratificatory nature.
Thank you very much, my friend and brother. I want to finish. We're getting really late, and I think we're going to jump over one speaker. And I want to ask my dear friend Chaitanya Charan Prabhu if he can say a few words. I don't think Chaitanya Charan Prabhu had any relationship, any physical association with Guru Maharaj. But I asked him to speak tonight because he's such a very, very thoughtful person. You may see his publication, Spiritual Scientist, and he's written many, many books. One of the things I like about him a whole lot is he always gets in trouble because he's such a thinker and he's thinking out of the box. So some people say he's not bona fide. Anybody who says someone's not bona fide because they're thinking, that's someone that I want to be friends with. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is such a person. And if you can just say, I know it's a pretty impossible act to follow after Gokul Prabhu's thing, what can you do? But it's still, if you could just express just a few thoughts, I don't know, appreciation of Gour Govinda Maharaj's mission, his teachings, his life story, or any impression you have on some Guru Tattva, whatever you would like, Prabhu. And then after you, I think I'm going to ask Pushkaraksa Prabhu to finish things. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, can you chat with us tonight? Something? Can you share something? You have to unmute yourself. Oh.
Yeah. Am I audible now, Prabhu? I'm unmuted now.
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I had never heard about the departure of Srimad Gour Govinda Maharaj in such heart-wrenching detail. Thank you for sharing that also, Gokul Prabhu. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Actually, Gokul Prabhu has in many ways demonstrated through his speech what I wanted to speak. Actually, I have been studying both the history of ISKCON and the history of religious organizations in general. And as I studied this more and more, it struck me how His Holiness Gour Govinda Maharaj had enormous impact on the stability and the fidelity of our movement in a way that has not really been appreciated. As Madhavananda Prabhu expressed, that it was one of the greatest misfortunes of my life that I never had the opportunity to personally associate with His Holiness Gour Govinda Maharaj. But from what I have read his books and I've heard his classes, what struck me about him the most is what I have also learned from studying religious traditions to some extent, is that there is authority that comes by faithfulness and there is authority that comes by saintliness. And Gour Govinda Maharaj, after the departure of Srila Prabhupada, when our movement went through many extraordinary difficulties, and there are hundreds of ways in which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's and Prabhupada's legacy could have ruptured and ended. Of course, it wouldn't end because Lord Chaitanya has a plan, Prabhupada has a plan. But that plan is executed through their dedicated servants. And Gour Govinda Maharaj embodied this authority through saintliness. We all strive to be faithful in according to our capacities, and that's vital. However, nothing gives potency and vibrancy to a bhakti, to a tradition as the example of saintliness. And Gour Govinda Maharaj embodied that through his talks, through his personal example, and through his mission. Not only was his saintliness is manifested in the dedication through which he translated Prabhupada's books into Oriya, and through the temple he built, and the faith he has given to so many devotees by his example, by his teachings, and what he continues to give on. Srila Prabhupada, one of his we could say long time aspirations was that he get dedicated Indian followers. And Prabhupada lamented at times, it was one of Prabhupada's, you could say, sorrows, that he traveled in India for 40 years, but he never got any dedicated followers. And among the few dedicated Indian followers at that time, not many, initially before he went to America, but when he came back, the way Prabhupada had an enormous impact in India in terms of attracting people to commit and become life members is extraordinary. But in terms of dedicated followers, the few followers that Prabhupada attracted, among them His Holiness Gour Govinda Maharaj is arguably the foremost. And for me, I have got a glimpse of Maharaj's saintliness and potency through my association with Madhavananda Prabhu. He has been a person who has been both an extraordinary example of both devotional rigor and intellectual rigor, by which he has helped me balance. He mentioned kindly that I get myself into trouble at times. But how to be devotionally faithful and intellectually honest? That is a tension which he has expertly navigated, and in the association, I have also learned to navigate. And I pray to His Holiness Gour Govinda Maharaj on this day, that the example of authority through purity, through saintliness, which is manifested, that stay forever in my heart, and I can follow in some small ways in this glorious mission that we have all been given, and that I can make some contribution in some small way. After hearing about Maharaj's exalted consciousness while departing from the world, that has reinforced my conviction about how at a time when our movement was in great difficulty, Maharaj embodied that saintliness which has given so many devotees faith, and which continues through his books and through his writings that have been published to give faith, inspiration, and devotion to many, many devotees. And I hope to be one of those many hundreds and thousands of devotees who can be enriched by the ongoing legacy of His Holiness Gour Govinda Maharaj. Thank you very much. His Holiness Gour Govinda Maharaj ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very succinct and very nice. One thing I'm getting from your words that's really touched me is speaking about how to navigate the institution. And this, for me, is one of the great treasures I got from Guru Maharaj. And different devotees will naturally see things in different ways. And I'm not going to try to argue that this particular vision is the best vision. But I personally, after visiting many different sanghas, Babajis and Gaudiya Math and different Vaishnavas, I see the same kind of problems that we have in ISKCON everywhere else. There's problems everywhere. But a very special thing that I personally have tried to imbibe from my Guru Maharaj is a way to see both those things. Once someone asked him, do we have to see our GBC as our guru? And Guru Maharaj said, no. Did you choose your guru? We respect our GBC, we respect our temple president in an institutional way so that the mission can go on. But I choose who my guru is. Another anecdote which we shared with you not so long ago, I want to just mention with the devotees. Sain Prabhu's son once protested to Guru Maharaj. He said, Guru Maharaj, I can't live in the temple. I just can't tolerate this. And Guru Maharaj looked at him and he said, Are Baba, how long will you go on living in kindergarten? And I found that very profound, because kindergarten's important. He's not dismissing that it's all useless, it's important. But who's going to live forever in kindergarten? At some point, we should graduate from the school, and then we have an alma mater, then we may help the mission of the school and things going on, but we have to live our own lives. And Guru Maharaj, in that sense, to me, gave me a vision of the institution, its relevance, and the relevance of the temples. And aside from that, the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the mission of our Guru Vargas. So thank you very much, Chaitanya Chan. Would you want to make any further comments after what I just said?
Thank you for adding to that. It's a very beautiful example of, I know you had mentioned to me about the kindergarten, and that in no way is minimizing the institution, but recognizing that ultimately our connection with Krishna is our responsibility. That is something which you have yourself expertly navigated, and always carving out your own intellectual and devotional space, while also maintaining excellent relationships with practically all the spiritual leaders of our movement. So I strive to, in some small way, follow in your footsteps. Thank you for your guidance and that special realization to add. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughtfulness, Prabhuji. I hope you come visit us again. It was very special having you Sunday. There's some very special scholarly projects coming up with us. I'd like to talk with you about sometime. We'll be very interested. Thank you. So we have another very special devotee here. We have many special devotees here, but there's one person I'd scheduled, and he very kindly offered not to speak, but I'd like to call on him. Is he still here? And that's Amarendra Prabhu. Okay. Amarendra Prabhu is a disciple of Radha Govinda Maharaj, and he's someone I have a lot of hope for, a lot of appreciation. He's you may not have heard his name, but you will hear his name. He has many videos on YouTube, and he has like tens of thousands of hits. He's a very, very popular speaker. He's a very, very special personality. Because of his youth, sometimes devotees, old folks like myself, become envious, I think. And they give him a bit of a hard time because he's just so incredibly brilliant in Sanskrit and Bengali, in singing and shlokas and Vaishnava culture. He's really imbibed so much from his Guru Maharaj. And he's another person who's a great thinker and a dear friend. And I wanted to ask Amarendra Prabhu, I feel terrible just giving a little bit of time to such amazing speakers. I remember once we went to a home program in the Dallas area, and the devotees there told me that Amarendra Prabhu had given a class there before. He started at like 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night, I think. And the class finished at 4 o'clock in the morning because he likes to speak and he has so very much to say. So Amarendra Prabhu, I would really value if you could share with us a few impressions of our revered spiritual master in a philosophical way, or whatever way you're inspired. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Okay, you're unmuted already. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Madhavananda Prabhu, for kindly having me over. Is my voice audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. I will, in the interest of time, keep my Mangalacharana very short. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah. I feel in Sanskrit there is a saying, Na shobhate sabha madhye hamsa madhye bako yatha. That people like me are actually like crows or cranes in the assembly of swans. So when I see this Zoom platform at this point, I'm still wondering why it's not exploding because of so much rasa and so much spiritual intensity and experience that's there on this Sangha. I was actually 4 years old when Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj left this world, 1996. So I have, my eyes have never been fortunate to see that form and be the recipient of his glance. But I just want to, in a couple of minutes, mention my coming in contact with Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's Vani. My parents are disciples of His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. And in one room conversation, Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj spoke about his senior godbrother, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. And I was very fascinated to know more about Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. So I asked my aunt to tell me more. And she did. And she was the one who gifted me and gave me the book on Gopal Jiu. And when I started reading the book, I found out that it was Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj who was given the name Braja Bandhu. I really like that name of Krishna, the friend of everyone in Braj. My mother read out the book to me, and then the desire to go to Bhubaneswar rose in my heart. My father was very kind to take me to Bhubaneswar. And what really struck me was at a time when there was total chaos about Guru Tattva, in a generation where there was not proper understanding about Guru Tattva was beaming through all three altars in the Bhubaneswar temple, because we had Nityananda Prabhu with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Guru Tattva. We had Balaram with Krishna as Krishna Balaram, Balaram as Guru Tattva, and then Baladev Prabhu with Jagannath, Subhadra Rani, and Sudarshan. So there was Nityananda Prabhu, Balaram, and Baladev, Guru Tattva beaming through all three altars. I found that to be very enlightening to see that how Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj had kept Guru with Gauranga and Guru with Krishna on all the altars. I got a white iPod at that time and downloaded all of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's audio classes. And it was fascinating because in our house, we didn't have internet at that time. So I would go into these shopping malls. I know I'm very guilty to say this on a public forum, but I used to go into these shopping malls where they used to have free internet, WiMAX. And I would go there only and only to download Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's classes and connect to the internet and then download and then come home and hear them. And so much so that at nighttime, my mother used to come to see if I'm asleep, because my mother had the rule that I have to go to sleep early because I had to go to school next day. And I would say, yes, I'm going to sleep. And then I would have my earphones plugged to my ears, under the pillow and over a blanket with a white iPod listening to Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. And Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's classes used to be like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, going from 8 o'clock in the morning up to noon. And it was fascinating for me to see this culture of having bhajans for like 30 minutes and glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam for like 45 minutes, and then coming to the verse and then opening up the purport line by line for like 2 hours. And then after that, the royal staircase conversations down the steps. So it was fascinating that someone had so much to speak about Krishna. Asakti-stad guna-khyane priti-stad vasati-sthale, as one of the symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. And then my mother used to come and check, and then I used to act as if I'm asleep while still having those earphones plugged to my ears. And then when I used to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I used to tell my mother, I have to tell you very honestly, I slept very late last night. And this is what Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was saying. So conceptions about Nityananda Prabhu as a volcano of love, conceptions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being Bhakta Avatar, coming to taste so many beautiful things, like the whole concept of the green mango and the yellow mango. I had never heard of these things. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the most juicy, most nectarian fruit of Godhead. Netrotsav, another beautiful concept that I heard only from Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu coming in front of Jagannath and the eyes meeting, eye-to-eye union. This was something that I had never thought of, never heard of. And another thing about Lila Purushottam, Maryada Purushottam, and Prema Purushottam. These terms, again, I heard from Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj in his tapes, and how wonderfully he would navigate from one chapter of one canto to another chapter of another canto with references pulling off out of nowhere, and then singing Vaishnav bhajans and then quoting them, and also ripping off the disciples in the front row out of so much affection. I always saw affection of Guru Tattva coming. In fact, one last story before I wrap up. In Atlanta, one senior devotee was once mentioning that he was part of the Mayapur Gurukul, and Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was his teacher. And he somehow, as a child, had this nature of being little frivolous. So he would make fun of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. He would make fun of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's accent and his way of talking and singing and walking and expressions and gestures. And Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj would tolerate because he was a kid. But then he mentioned to me something very sweet. He said, one day as I was walking and playing around, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj called me and said, Baba, come here. So then he said, offer obeisances to me and touch my feet. So he was standing with folded palms, and Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj said, you make fun of Vaishnav, you will get Vaishnav aparad. Maya will hold you by the throat and push you into another mother's womb. I can forgive you, Baba. You offer obeisances, I will forgive you. And then Maya will not touch you. So, and then he offered obeisances, and Gour Govinda Maharaj blessed him. So, and laughed and blessed him. So what I see there is so much affection. It's like a father teaching the child to offer obeisances to the mother, and the mother teaching the child to offer obeisances to the father, So it was Gour Govinda Maharaj's sweet mood. So in this way, so many beautiful things that I personally want to offer as flowers of gratitude, stringing them to a garland at the lotus feet of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. And finally, I just want to say that Viraha Mahotsav, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur defines Viraha. We generally say Viraha is separation, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says V means Vishesha Rupena, in a very special way. And Raha means Rahasyamai Milan, to meet, in a very confidential way. So V means in a very special, condensed, in a very confidential, special way. And Raha means Rahasyamai Milan, to meet. So externally there may be separation, but in the heart of our hearts, there's confidential meeting with so much love and so much appreciation and gratitude. So to His Divine Grace, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, I sell myself as a slave, lifetime after lifetime, for how much His Vani has given me. I have never been able to see His form through my eyes or be the recipient of His glance, but I think His classes, His Nityananda Kirtans, 3-3-hour Kirtans, Daya Koro More Nitai, Daya Koro More, Agatira Gati Nitai, Sadhu Loka Bole. All of these things move in my consciousness when I think of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, like rocking and rolling on that Vyasasan, roaring like a lion. So I'm very grateful to all those devotees who recorded those classes, recorded those kirtans for a generation like me who were born after Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's manifest pastimes. Thank you, Madhavananda Prabhu, for including me, including a crow in the assembly of swans. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amarendra Prabhu. You know, what I would like to do, I'd like to be able to have discussions. And especially I was watching while you were speaking, I was watching Gokul's face. Gokul, what do you think of Amarendra? Any comment?
I think I just put a comment. I think he was actually there.
Pretty amazing, isn't it? This is our hope.
Raghava was saying this again and again, like we keep meeting devotees like this, where they just, I come across devotees lying in temples and they're just lying there in their cots and they've got an earphone hanging out and I can hear Guru Maharaj's voice coming out of these headphones and I think, wow, it's actually not us doing this, but somehow we recorded very nicely all those classes and it makes us so glad that people are still listening and getting so much power and Shakti from that.
Amarendra, you should be offering your pranams to Gokul because he's the one who recorded so many of those classes.
I feel like renaming my name on Zoom as Gokul Das Das Anudas.
Thank you so much for taking part. I know somebody here who may be a little bit concerned. That's our dear godbrother Pushkaraksa Prabhu, because he was supposed to finish at 8 o'clock at night. So as we've been saying sometimes, don't mind about the time, just pretend that we're live streaming from India. So I'd like to request Pushkaraksa Prabhu to say something. For those of you who don't know, when Guru Maharaj first went to Europe, I think it was 1985, there was a young man named Bhakta Patrick, please correct me if I'm wrong, who was living there in France, and sometimes he was translating. He studied English, he was a learned person, he knew French and English both, and he began translating for Guru Maharaj and had a very special relationship, and he became Guru Maharaj's first Western disciple, and he's a very dedicated dear godbrother. I had the good fortune, he had the misfortune. It was my good fortune of living in the same room together for about 6 months here in the Bhubaneswar temple. And it's nice to see you again, Pushkaraksa Prabhu. So our time is so late that we just have to break the rules tonight. And please share something with us of your feelings, your memories, your realizations of Guru Maharaj as you like. Thank you so much for being with us. I'll get out of the way now. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Niti Namine. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prashtatya Deshatarine Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatari. Well, speaking after so many eloquent speakers, and sadhus, and devotees with full of love, I mean, it was very moving, and I feel pretty unqualified, My qualification could seem to be the first, Western disciple or devotee to have been in contact with Gurudev, but that's no qualification at all. It's just my good fortune, It so happened that I joined ISKCON in 81, actually, after reading Prabhupada's books, and I'd been searching for my Gurudev for about 5 years, and I turned off the offer to become a disciple of the local zonal acharya at the time. And I'd been in contact at some point with Hari Vilas also and other senior Prabhupada disciples, and there was all this guru issue, New Vrindavan meeting in 84 and all that. So the guru reform Ravindra Swarup, etc. So I studied all this, and I had some doubts about the first 11. And finally, I made up my mind that none of these 11 would be my guru. So I was attentively watching who would be allowed to initiate, in the line of Srila Prabhupada, because it was my condition, my precondition to become a disciple of Prabhupada, a pure devotee in the line of Prabhupada. So actually, Krishna made the arrangement that I could be there when Gurudev arrived in France on the occasion of his first trip to the West in 1985. And I had been offered the service by the local temple president in a castle we had near Paris at the time, to be the servant and assistant of Guru Maharaj during his stay in France for a fortnight. And that was my great fortune. So when Guru Maharaj arrived, nobody was there to greet him, actually, and I greeted him with prayers, and singing, as it was the practice at the time when...
Pushkaraksa, this was Guru Maharaj's very first time he ever left India and went to the West, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yes,
85.
It's amazing. He'd never been to the West before, very first time.
Exactly. Actually, he was traveling with Vanamali Prabhu, who was a disciple of Jaipataka Maharaj, because Vanamali had the experience of having traveled abroad. And none of Srila Gurudev's disciples, because he had initiated disciples, local disciples in 85, same year, so he just became Guru, officially allowed. A batch of local disciples, or Oriya God brothers, became initiated. And then he traveled during the summer, that following summer. So I greeted him, and with some little kirtan, and then I served him during his stay. And afterwards I went to New Mayapur with him. And so we struck a relationship, and very soon, after just 2-3 days, I could make out he's my guru. He's who I've been waiting for so long, So I expressed my desire, and he said, yes, you come to India and I will initiate you. So I'm trying to make it a long story short due to time, but so in the meantime, I became engaged with Yamuna Devi Dasi. So actually, when I came to India in 86, both of us got initiated in Kamakya Nagar in 86 on Ram Navami. And Yamuna became his disciple as well, So I wanted to say a few words about Yamuna Devi Dasi as well, because that is my glory, so to speak, to have been her husband and god brother, and to have served her. And why do I say that? Because Guru Maharaj declared that when she passed away, he said, my guruship is now successful because one of my disciples has gone back home, back to Godhead. So in the line of Bhaktisiddhanta, he quoted, the same line, and it's a fact, this is another story, a long chapter, but how Yamuna Devi Dasi became a pure devotee. She had the darshan of Krishna a couple times. She had the darshan of Prabhupada, and Guru Maharaj commented, how she had a vision of the spiritual world, Radharani and the gopis, where she was going, how she was chanting the Maha Mantra. Even at night, she had the Maha Mantra, in her mind. This makes us think of Purushottam Tirtha Prabhu after offered obeisances to Gurudev, how he also had the Maha Mantra, permanently in his mind. So she had all the symptoms of a pure devotee, and at the time of her passing away, she had the name of Krishna on her lips, So that is very significant, that Guru Maharaj could monitor all this transition, of through the disease, through cancer, through the hardship, take care of his disciple, all the way to the ultimate success, you know. So we should be aware that it's possible, you know, and Guru Maharaj is a very qualified guru and guide for us to be successful, if not in this lifetime, you know, maybe in some future lifetime, but for sure, he has that potency. So actually in that regard, you know, when I was in Barcelona one year, I was acting as Gurudev's servant, and I asked that question to Guru Maharaj, whether we would meet again in some future lifetime for me, you know, to become his disciple again. And he said yes, you know. So we're not celebrating the appearance day of Guru Maharaj, but his disappearance day. And in that regard, I would like to say also that, of course, there were external circumstances that we are aware of as disciples, but there is also some internal reason that we may wish to consider, that actually Guru Maharaj was fully aware of when he would go. Even Gokul narrated that he told him, take your hand out of my mouth, I'm leaving. So it's all pre-planned, you know. There's a Prabhupada disciple in France called Yagesh Prabhu, and he wanted to take your Brahminical initiation from Gurudev, and Gurudev told him, come, and I think it was 94, and he told Yagesh, this will be your last opportunity. And we know how he bade farewell to Gopal. There's also, some of you may be aware, I will mention it for, you know, for truth's sake, that Krishnadas Babaji told, I mean, it came to the ears of Mahesh Pandit that Krishnadas Babaji predicted that Gurudev would come back again, take birth, and be a very prominent spiritual teacher. So personally, I had an intuition in 95 when I wrote my Vyasa Puja offering that maybe Gurudev would soon leave, you know, and I didn't know why I had that intuition, but it came to me. And it so happened that he left the next year. So I think there's a plan also, you know, that Janme Janme Prabhu say, you know, life after life, he's our guru and he's our savior. So some of his disciples may not be as fortunate as Yamuna Devidasi to go back to the spiritual world at the end of this lifetime. But Guru Maharaj, you know, he's come from the spiritual world, actually. He's not a mortal, he's not an ordinary jiva, you know. He came from the spiritual world. That's my intimate understanding, you know. And that's why he's a pure devotee from birth as well, you know. So he's really Patita Pavan, and he's coming back to save us. And it's for us to take up this opportunity, you know, to seize this opportunity to finish with this material world and this material life, you know, and these material attachments. We have to finish. And Gurudev is there to take us, you know. And I don't know if I should mention, you know, but Gurudev, you know, appeared to me in a dream when I was in Bhubaneswar in 94, you know, and he was welcoming me in the spiritual world. And he was in his transcendental form, not the form that we know of, but his Nitya Rupa. And I could recognize him, you know, from the heart. And I was jubilant and I was saying, he's my guru, he's my guru, he's my guru. So we have to be very hopeful, you know, that all the devotees who are faithful to Guru Maharaj and who have that loving bond, you know, the rope of love, as he used to say, you know, who have that loving bond with him, we are to be part of his eternal Sangha in the spiritual world. in the entourage of Srila Prabhupada as well, of course, because he's serving Srila Prabhupada eternally. So this is like a group in the spiritual world, you know. And of course, there are other groups, and we cannot say one group is better than another, but at least, you know, it's a heart to heart, you know. It's whoever is occupying your heart is your main guru. We may learn from other sources, but whoever we're the most in love with, that will be our guru in the spiritual world. You know, we're eternally servant of our Guru Dev, you know, for those who choose to. So I would like also to say a word to conclude, you know, that there's no, you know, when Ramananda Roy is interacting with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking, of all kinds of distress, what is the most painful? And Ramananda Roy replies, apart from separation from the devotee of Krishna, I know of no unbearable unhappiness. So on one hand, we have this viraha, this separation and the pain of the separation. And I can imagine the pain that the devotees have gone through, those who were present. And when I learned the news, you know, I was in France and I was devastated as well. But in a sense, I felt that it was, in a sense, good for me not to have been there when that happened, because how could I have borne the pain, you know? I know Sachinandan Prabhu, for instance, you know, he told me that he couldn't speak for nearly 6 months after Guru Maharaj departed, you know. Such was the bond of love in between them, you know. You can imagine Sachinandan Prabhu being the first practically disciple to have served Gurudev from a young age, you know, riding on a bicycle, you know, with Guru Maharaj, you know, when he was like 17, you know, being present when Prabhupada came in 77, you know, in Bhubaneswar to lay the cornerstone of the temple. So this is a bond of love, and we feel the separation, and that's how the love increases, as Gurudev explained also, how Krishna disappears from the vision of the gopis to increase their love and attachment. So certainly Guru Maharaj also did that, but he left in a timely manner, quotation marks, before us, so that in our next lives, for those who will be concerned, you know, he can still act as our guru and have you know, be a little older than us, obviously. So it's all part of the plan. And now, I suppose now our goal is to bridge the gap. Like Amarendra Prabhu explained, there's also union in separation. And that is our goal, you know, and through love, and even in a practical way, actually, Guru Maharaj is still present and still capable of guiding his disciples, his faithful disciples, those who want to depend on him. And he can correct them, direct them, give them instruction. And I'm sure some of us have direct experience of that. So this is, again, an eternal bond that's not stopped or hampered by physical absence. So hopefully we will all make it sooner or later. We will meet in the spiritual world. We have to understand we're part of an eternal Sangha, eternal spiritual family, and that's beyond our physical differences, cultural differences, ethnic differences, etc. You know, we will all. And Prabhupada said to his disciple, when you will go to the spiritual world, you will recognize each other. So even though we may have different svarup, obviously, we will recognize each other, and we will be joyfully and blissfully serving together at the lotus feet of our Guru Maharaj. Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. go permanently.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much, Pushkaraksa Prabhu. You give us a lot to think about.
Hari Bol.
Reminded
I know what
me
pronounce
also-
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
I know it.
Any comments you want to offer, Raghava?
Oh, I'm just so wonderful. Happy to see Pushkaraksa Prabhu speaking and sharing from his heart, you know, like honest, heartfelt offering and memories and so much detail that we don't know, that we can't read, we can't see it in a chat, but when we speak and hear and remember, it's a great moment of joy and good fortune, really. So thank you so much. This is wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you too.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Everybody, Gokul Prabhu, thank you so much. It's
I just wanted to share with Pushkaraksa Prabhu. I was sitting in Guru Maharaj's room with him when Guru Maharaj was chanting to Jamuna over the phone when she left her body.
Oh, Jai.
Wow.
And Guru Maharaj came into the temple room the next morning and he spoke that now my guruship is successful. I have a disciple. Because I was having that doubt. Is it possible that we can go back? And he said, she's there with Krishna now. I remember you coming and telling me she saw Krishna at the foot of her bed and tears came out of her eyes, feet. And she was in pain with cancer, with no painkillers. All the nurses were completely unable to fathom what was going on. It gave me so much faith, that pastime. Hare Krishna.
Wow.
Jai.
Raghava,
Yes.
there you go again. I think Gokul was there when Guru Maharaj was speaking with Jamuna. He said, Gokul is the meeting person. He connects everybody together. And I was telling us to Pushkaraksa.
Gokul Sandesh.
I have a little inspiration, if you all don't mind. There's a 3-minute video, which we just watched, but not everybody was here. And it's only 3 minutes, but I just really feel like I want to play this video of Guru Maharaj. This again is in Paris. Pushkaraksa Prabhu said it, probably the house of Hari Vilas in either 85 or 86. And Guru Maharaj is speaking about separation from Guru. I think this would be a final good thing for us to finish with.
What happens when the physical presence of the Guru is absent? When the Guru is absent physically,
but his instructions are there. His instructions, Bapu, Rupa, Bani Rupa, is Guru means pure devotee, Vaishnava. You understand? Guru means a pure devotee, intimate, very, very intimate, associate of Lord Krishna. Is Guru, is Krishna Master. As when he is physically present, that is his presence is here. But when that means Apravat Lila, when he disappears, at that time, one should not think that Guru is not there. He is always there. Can you say Krishna is not there? Krishna is always there, isn't it? Krishna is always there. If you have eyes, you can see Krishna. Premanjana Surita Bhakti Vinodjanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayasmila Prayati Jasyam Sundaram Achinta Gunasrupam Govindam Adi Purushottam Tirtha. I have already spoken. If of that, I have Bhakti Chakshu, I have devotion, and you have developed Krishna prayer, then you will see Krishna everywhere. You know that? See Krishna of Akudi. Radhanath Maharaja, see Krishna in the pillar, whereas his father couldn't. Tasyam no prasyami, Sotame no prasyami. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Tasyam no prasyami, Sotame no prasyami. You see, he always says me, I always see him. So, similarly, spiritual master is always there. You understand? Don't think that he is physically present. He is not there. He is there. he is also present in this part. Vani, you understand? The instructions are there. Don't think so. That is dying.
Hare Krishna. So Pushkaraksa was just saying, and Amarendra Prabhu, Guru Maharaj is still present. And one way that I personally feel I can meet Guru Maharaj again is by hearing from Gokul and Raghava and Vajayantamala and Pushkaraksa and Radhanath Maharaja and so many different devotees. It's been a really wonderful thing. I want to thank everybody so very, very much for all of this. So we're going to go ahead and stop. If anybody's interested in watching these recordings, they're going to be on our Facebook page, and I'm also going to upload them onto YouTube. So any last comments from anybody here? Raghava, Gokul, Pushkaraksa? Okay.
I would like to say that Gurudev is Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future is bright for all of us. So let us keep our spirit up and cooperate together in the footsteps of our dear God brother Madhavananda Prabhu to expand the mission of our Gurudev. Thank you very much.
That's a big statement. I feel a little humbled by that. The honest fact is that Guru Maharaj is expanding that, and sometimes he uses some useless person, but it's not our glory, it's Guru Maharaj. And I, especially things in front of Raghava and Gokul and wonderful things you've all done for Guru Maharaj, I'm really nothing. I just really hope, on this day, my last words, I want to ask Pushkaraksa Prabhu, my older god brother, Raghava Pandit, Gokul, and all the devotees here, please bless us. Let's have a sangha where we push on together for Gurudev. Thank you all so much. Shila Gurudev ki.
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol. Vansha Kalpadurubhishcha.
Kripasindhavya Patita Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Bol. Hari Bolo.